All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show coming to you, US 1 South from Buffalo Wild Wings. My next guest, I love her like if she was my own mother, I would say, because she taught me so much when I was an intern at Sports Radio 94 WIP. She does a phenomenal job on the WIP morning show. Here to talk some Eagles with us is the great Rhea Hughes, who joins us right now. Rhea, how are you? Thanks for a few minutes.
Hey, Zach, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great, and I appreciate you giving us a few minutes today on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports, 920 The Jersey at 920thejersey.com. So, Rhea, what I want to ask you first is because I know you know John Dornbos pretty well from Wingball.
I do.
Years. How about John Dornbos moving on to the semifinals and America's Got Talent?
You know, here's the funny thing. I was never really watched the show because you know me. I'm not a big TV person unless I'm watching a game. But I have seen John's act in person many times, and so what amazes me the most is the image of Simon Cowell as being wowed by anything never was something I was used to, because you always think he's just this miserable Brit, and the look on his face has always been the look on my face. I was with John one time when he did a magic act for like a small charity thing at a restaurant. And by the time he was done, the entire wait staff was standing around with, like, their mouths on the floor. So I know he can entertain. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all, but it's pretty cool to see it being done on a national stage.
And his stage presence is remarkable. And,
yes.
and you're right, Simon Cowell is enamored with him. Every time he's on there, Simon Cowell gets up. And, this Simon Cowell doesn't give a round of applause to anyone. So it's really unbelievable, Rhea.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy for him, and I if he can't beat out Tape Face, there's something wrong with America, because I think that's one of his competition there. But yeah, I'm not surprised. John's been doing this for a long time. If you know the backstory of how he got into it, it's pretty astonishing. That he started as really therapy when he was a teenager after, unfortunately, his father murdered his mother. So, I mean, if you just know the whole backstory to him and what he's been able to do with it and how it's become therapy for him, and now it's becoming clearly his next career after he's done with football, to be able to make a name in the city of Philadelphia as the long snapper is pretty astonishing, and John's been able to do it. Now he's making a name on a national stage. It's unbelievable.
He's phenomenal. I think he's going to win as Rhea Hughes joins us from Sports Radio 94 WIP. So, Rhea, confidence in Doug Peterson, where is it for you?
It's funny. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, and sometimes you say something to Angelo Cataldi, who's, the main host on WIP that I've worked with for almost 20 years, offhand, and then he kind of just decides that's his mantra. I said about 2 or 3 weeks ago, just during a break, I go, the biggest problem heading into the season? And he goes, what? And I said, we have no idea if Doug Peterson can coach. I said, we can talk about all these different things, but here's what I will say. So I can't honestly tell you what my confidence level is, but as you know, Zach, from having worked with us, I couldn't stand Chip Kelly. I didn't think the man could coach at all, or at least coach an NFL team. It's very clear he could coach a college team, and he did that really well. But the NFL was a whole different animal, and I never cared for 95% of what he did. And so I think the only thing that may give me some confidence in Doug Peterson is that it's just going to be a traditionally run offense. You're not going out there and trying to break land speed records to run a million plays in 5 seconds to impress nobody but yourself and kill your defense. So the only thing I think I can say is that it will be more traditionally run. Unfortunately, it's going to be run by Sam Bradford, so I'm not really thrilled about that. But that's the only thing I will say is that, he comes from a more traditional mold where if you have a solid defense, it might be a better run team.
And also with the coaching position, with Chip Kelly, I was the same way. I thought he was arrogant. He never adapted. I did not like Chip Kelly. But the one thing Chip Kelly did was he tried to be Bill Belichick, except he didn't have the success. If someone looked at Chip Kelly the wrong way, they were sent out of town. Now you have Doug Peterson. Yep. Nigel Bradham already had his incident. Nelson Aguilar had his incident. How has he handled those incidents so far as the head coach of the Eagles?
I'm not overly impressed, and let's be honest, Bill Belichick wasn't Bill Belichick until he acquired Tom Brady. So if you have a Tom Brady, you can become a Bill Belichick, and obviously that's what Chip never did. The Bradham thing, just from reports that we're hearing, who knows what went on? You shouldn't get involved with those kind of things. What we're hearing is that his girlfriend may have been hit during it, and he was retaliating. So we don't know that whole story, and that just happened. And Bradham arrived in town, and Doug spoke to him. I'm a little bit more concerned with how he handled the Nelson Aguilar thing. Accused of sexual assault. There are not going to be any charges pressed. But when Doug announced about a week or so ago that he had not spoken to Nelson and was going to speak to him when he came in, I'm thinking that incident happened like 5-6 weeks ago. You mean as the head coach, your, second wide receiver who you're counting on to do something, he didn't do much last year, a big name on this team gets accused of that, and you never picked up the phone and discussed it with them? I kind of find that odd, and I find that kind of putting your head in the sand, which as a head coach you can't do. I think you at least have to say, yeah, Nelson and I, we've spoken. I've explained to him he can't put himself in these situations. He hasn't been. He's not going to be charged. The police determined that nothing happened, but I still found it odd that he never spoke to him.
And I'm not going to kill the guy yet because he's still young on this job, and I want to see what he does on Sundays. But you're right, with the Aguilar point, you have to pick up the phone. You have to arrange a meeting. And I know it was towards the end of OTAs, but you have to find a way to handle that. But the analogy I used the other day was I thought that Doug Peterson was a safe hire. I wasn't thrilled by it, but Howie Roseman is the guy that's driving this car, and in the passenger seat, it's Doug Peterson. And eventually, the guy with the permit is going to get some time in the driver's seat, and I just hope this thing doesn't crash and burn when Doug's in the driver's seat on a Sunday.
I think the person who's more driving it is Jeff Lurie. I think there's no question in my mind that he's had a lot to do with everything. There was a story came out maybe a week or two ago that it was upon his insistence that Sam Bradford came back because he wanted to remain competitive, why they developed Carson Wentz. I think this is all Jeff Lurie pining, for his glory days with Andy Reid and hope. Listen, he had his team hijacked by Jeff Lurie. By Chip Kelly. I don't think he cared for anything that went on during that. And he now wants to return to where he's the owner, Howie's the general manager, and Doug's the coach. And Doug's not walking around going, I'm Chip's like Chip did, that I'm kind of running the show. I think it's being running a little bit more by Jeff Lurie, and clearly Howie's been given the power back. But I think the one calling the shots a little bit more than he ever has in his entire tenure as an owner is Jeff Lurie.
We're talking to Rhea Hughes, and Rhea, Andy Reid is synonymous with burning timeouts. You saw the Jimmy Kempski article, and Jimmy was on the show yesterday. But I don't like the way, and I know it could change from now, and Doug's being a little bit more open to it with this quotes from the media yesterday, but they have to add that third channel on the play set, on the play calling clock. I don't want to see on the headset it going from Doug Peterson, then to Frank Reich, and then to the quarterback. It makes no sense.
It was odd when he said it that, but, clearly I didn't do the homework that Jeff McLean of the Inquirer did to go find out that it's alarming to me he didn't know there were three channels. But I also say if he was a coordinator, worked under Andy, if that's the way things were run, I guess you just kind of assume that that's what it is. But to not know that you had access to the third channel, that's okay if, Zach, you don't know it. It's okay if I don't know it. He's got to know that. So, the fact that he knows it now, hey, that's a good thing. But I still think it's either, call the plays directly to the quarterback or let the offense coordinator do it. Don't waste time. Listen, that was a hallmark of Andy Reid. And clearly it hurt them in their playoff loss to the Patriots with the Chiefs. So, it's a concern.
Would you rather have Sam Bradford or Nick Foles as quarterback?
Neither. Listen. I'm not a Sam Bradford fan. There was nothing he did remarkable last year that to me warranted bringing him back for that type of money or his attitude. When, to me, if this is the team you're going forward with and Carson Wentz is your guy going forward to the future, play him. See what you got. Quarterbacks that are picked that high generally play, so play them. Sam Bradford offers not. He may surprise me, and it's 2 years past his injury, but I don't see anything that he does real remarkable.
And the downfall of this plan is they're relying for Sam Bradford because in the ideal world, they hope he plays a full 16. Eagles go to the postseason, then you could flip him in the offseason. But they're relying for him to be healthy. And I'm like you. I have zero confidence in Sam Bradford.
No, and listen, I could live with it if Carson Wentz was the backup. But, you've now included Chase. You've put so much money into the quarterback position. You're paying a guy, Chase Daniel, who's thrown one touchdown pass, I think it went in 7 years, $11 million guaranteed. You're paying, $22 million to Sam Bradford. It makes, to me, no sense. I could live with it if Sam's your number one, Carson Wentz is your number two. The minute that Sam Bradford has a problem, either he's not very good or he gets injured, and they try to run Chase Daniel out there, this fan base will collectively lose its mind.
You're exactly right. So final one before we let Rhea Hughes run
Sure.
Sports Radio 94 WIP. We all talk about the quarterback, but this running back committee and the wide receivers aren't good as well, Rhea. They stink.
No. Here's the funny thing. We had Doug on the other day, and Angelo asked him about the perceived lack of playmakers on the team. And he brought up, I know everybody, loved having Deshaun here and LaShawn here. And then he led with Darren Sproles. Now, I love Darren Sproles. But Darren Sproles is a part-time player. You can't use him a lot because of his size. Listen, I hated the way Chip used him. Chip would use him one or two times a game. You can use him more. That's not, when you're leading with Darren Sproles, I'm going, oh, dear goodness, this is a total, you look around at the playmakers in the division, they have them. We do not. And as shockingly to all of us, Ryan Matthews has begun training camp on the injured list. So that's not a surprise to anyone. Yeah, there's a severe lack of playmakers on this team, and that's a problem.
All I got to say is anyone but the Cowboys. Rhea Hughes, you're the best. Thanks so much.
You got it, Zach, anytime.